Greetings and welcome to Beatles Stuffology, where two old friends sit about and talk BS, Beatles stuff, on a track-by-track basis pretty much for the sake of it. My name is JG McQuarrie and I'm here with my co-host Andrew Deacon. Say hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Are you ready to dive into this song? I'm not going to say the title of this song in that sentence because that just sounds wrong.
Then how do I know which song I'm ready to dive into until you tell me?
Are you ready to talk about Little Child?
Yes, yes I am. I am ready to talk about any little child you so wish to discuss.
Lovely, good. So, I'm not sure you would get a song called Little Child anymore these days, but
yeah,
maybe.
it's an interesting one, isn't it? And you know, lyrically, it's not exactly the most sophisticated either. But then, I mean, we've spoken about that on other Beatles songs before, haven't we? The fact that you know, at this stage of the career, it's very simple, straightforward. Although, again, some songs have started to develop a little bit more and to look at even the subject of love in a different way. This one is very much a Route 1 kind of song. It doesn't mean it's bad, by the way. I think it probably gets you know, ripped apart a little bit more than it actually deserves, because I kind of quite like it. I know it's not brilliant, but on the other hand, it's not completely rubbish. I think a lot of people would be happy to have this or a song like this somewhere in their early catalogue. But lyrically, there's lots of child and lots of baby. Little child, baby, take a chance with me. Oh yeah, you know. It's on the sophistication scale, it's somewhere down a 3 out of 10. However, for entertainment, it's a, you know, it's a foot stomper.
But yeah, we're giggling slightly already because we've already concluded that there's a limited amount of material that you can get out of this song. But oh well, here we go anyway. I mean that's all fine. I think we were talking off air the last time we were speaking, but I honestly didn't really remember this song prior to coming back to listening to it for the podcast.
Whereas I was able to sing quite a chunk of it.
Yeah, no, you knew it. You remembered it, and in this particular occasion, I think you were probably the one that was in the right, because it is quite an entertaining little song. I don't really have any great reason for it having fallen off my radar. I think it's a perfectly pleasant, slightly less than 2 minutes, but it's not a major work. Nobody's going to claim otherwise. It is an album filler track, but you know, there are worse album filler tracks than this. There are worse album filler tracks than this album. So, you know, we should be fairly grateful for the quality that we have here, I guess.
And obviously it says a lot about me and my musical knowledge, but I didn't realise, you know, despite the fact I remembered the song, I didn't realise until then, we were talking about it the last time, it is actually a Lennon McCartney original. For some reason in my head, I had it as that it was one of their covers, because it kind of sounds like it could be one of those sort of early R&B type songs. So in that case, I think actually for them it does the job really, really well, doesn't it? It sort of replicates the feel of the songs that they liked, that they listened to and that they learnt from, and then they were able to, in a relatively short period of time, sit down and churn out, because you kind of get the feeling they did churn it out from, you know, reading around it, churn out something that replicates the thing that they like so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I mean, musically speaking, it's a very, very simple song. There's only 6 chords in it, and you know, 3 of them are E, A, and E seventh. But those sevenths are what gives it that kind of bluesy sort of feel to it, that slightly R&B kind of feel to it. And that is just straight replication of you know, hundreds of Chuck Berry songs, and you know, that whole kind of like Jerry Lee Lewis and all that kind of stuff. They're all based around what is basically a straightforward chord progression, EAB. I mean, you couldn't really ask for a more simple progression. So of course it absolutely does capture that, but it's got a kind of ragged feel to it. It's played quite loosely, and I think that helps to kind of reinforce that feeling that it's something that they could have banged out 1,000 times at the Star Club, but didn't because it was written for this album. But it's still got that kind of, yeah, you said foot stomper, but yeah, it's got that kind of stompy feel to it. That you know, kind of drives it along quite nice. It's very simple. It's musically not complicated at all. The most complicated thing in it musically, I think, is probably McCartney's bass line on the instrumental break. That sort of 12-bar blues thing, and then he suddenly goes into this kind of dum 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 kind of bass line. That's about as sophisticated as it gets, but it's another one of those occasions where I think McCartney's doing a good job of making something which isn't that easy appear really simple, because the rest of the song is so simple. This little kind of bassline riff underneath it, which is anchoring the whole song, gives it just that little bit of added complexity. So it's not just as straightforward as it is, sort of thing.
So, I mean, there is already then something that marks it out from, say, the first album as well. Because am I right in thinking that was it "Love Me Do" that originally was sung by John, but he couldn't actually sing it on the record because it couldn't get the break between the harmonica and the vocals right. Was it "Love Me Do"?
Yeah, love me. Yeah.
Okay, so whereas on this, you've got McCartney playing bass, but also by all accounts you've got him playing piano throughout as well. You've got harmonica being played by Lennon throughout, but also Lennon singing. So we're entering into that realm of, hey, some sophistication in the studio again, in that sense of, right, okay, we have 4 musicians, but we're going to get them doing different things and include that on the recording. So just that sense that they're expanding the sound a little bit, and they're expanding on the depth of the sound, I think does make a little bit of a difference and does compensate for the wonderfully simplistic, some might say puerile lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly go along with the idea that there is, you know, a bit of studio craft involved in this song, which does elevate it above its kind of very straightforward structure. I think one of the things that's sort of most interesting about this song is actually, if you listen to it, especially if you listen to it on headphones, there's a couple of moments in it where you can really tell where the limits of the recording studio lie, particularly the beginning of the song, where everything is panned over to the left-hand side on one channel, and then the vocals come in on the right-hand channel. It's just they've clearly run out of tracks, and that's the only way that they've been able to do it. And when it comes out of the instrumental or the instrumental solo, there's a really hard edit. It's like it builds up a real kind of head of steam during the instrumental break, with McCartney's bass line and Lennon's sort of really blowing his guts out on the harmonica, and then it just cuts, and it's really brutal. And if you listen to it, you never kind of, it's one of those, you'll never hear it the same way again, but you can't miss it. It's just this really, really tight cut, and either it's because something went wrong immediately after, and that was the only clean edit they could get, or it's just they've run out of tracks. It's the limits of the recording studio. But there are a couple of moments in this song where you can really hear that they are doing something with the studio. So I completely agree with that.
Congratulations for being one of probably only 100 people in history to have listened to the song closely enough to then have an opinion about where the edit comes. And you could probably rattle off the names of a few of those because they would have written books.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Does it help? I mean, it's a genuine question because as I will have said before, there's an awful lot of songs that I like that I don't really have a clue what the lyrics are because I'm not really listening intently for every single word. I just kind of like the feel of it. I'm not sort of listening to the quality of the singing because again, I like the kind of like the feel of it. And does it help to be able to sort of pinpoint these little moments? Does it change your overall view?
I think I don't know if help is the word I would use, but I find it interesting. Yeah, I particularly when I was kind of getting into the Beatles and I was starting to really develop it as more of a passing fancy, that it was something I was really passionate about. I wanted to kind of dig into a lot of the nuance and the detail above and beyond the most obvious stuff. If you permit a small personal diversion, when I was at school, our music teacher, whose name has long escaped my memory, had a book of sheet music with like these kind of psychedelic illustrations of Beatles songs. And I mean, I can't read sheet music. I've never been able to. But I remember looking at the book and seeing these kind of illustrations for songs that I had never heard at the time. Like I'm Only Sleeping. It wasn't. It was years later that I finally got Revolver and realized that I'm Only Sleeping is literally about that, and it wasn't a metaphor for something. I'm not dead. I'm only sleeping was kind of what was going through my teenage mind at the time. And then I listened to the song, and that is not what it is about at all. It really kind of threw me off balance on that song. I love the song, but it wasn't what I was expecting. And so when I was looking at these kind of illustrations and all the rest of it, it always felt like such a lazy kind of invocation of like all the kind of typical sort of psychedelia around the Beatles and all the rest of it. So when I started getting into the band themselves, I kind of had a desire to strip all that away and just try and appreciate them for what they are. Not devoid of cultural context, but devoid of all the cliches of cultural context, all you need is love nonsense and blah blah blah, all the stereotypical stuff. And so reading things like complete Beatles recording sessions, and of course Revolution in the Head as well, kind of does help to strip that back. And I find those kind of little intricate details of how it was recorded or where it was put together genuinely fascinating. Whether it helps me appreciate the song more, I don't know, but I think it does make me appreciate it in a different way when you're aware of how staggeringly primitive the technology is, or how much hard work has to go into putting a song like this together. Like you say, there's only 4 of them, and yet you've got 2 separate bass lines, you've got 2 to 3 harmonica lines, 2 to 3 vocal lines, you've got the drums, you've only got 4 tracks. How can you do that? And the story of that I find absolutely fascinating.
And there is a risk that someone could be listening to that and going, ooh, 4 tracks, ooh, yeah, they've got 6 things going on, ooh. You can very much take all of the modern recording apparatus for granted, can't you? When a fairly average artist can get their hands on GarageBand and or Pro Tools and just do whatever they want with as many tracks as they want. Quite often without actually having to touch an instrument itself. I think it's important sometimes to take yourself back and just go, actually, do you know what? Look at what these people did with the equipment that they had. It is pretty impressive. No, I suppose I was wondering because, some people like listening in for those mistakes, as it were, the bits that are left in, and perhaps focus more on that than on anything else. And I wouldn't want it to take too far away from just the general kind of up tempo riot really that this song is. And this would be great live, which of course is ironic because they didn't play it live. But it's another one of those songs, and again, it sort of elaborates on a theme from previous episodes. Another one of those songs that was written in a hurry, rehearsed in a hurry, recorded in a hurry, and then they probably never really went near ever again. It's just something that exists in aspect on this album, and then in people's memories. It's a weird thing, really. Yeah. It doesn't live very long. But it does leave something behind, albeit, again, not through the lyrics. But I feel like I'm being mean on the lyrics, by the way. I mean, actually, there is a bit of craft even in the lyrics, in what you might sort of laughingly call the verse. There is, you can see what, we assume it's Lennon, as Lennon is the one that sings it. Is it fair to assume that? So in the first one, so then we'll have some fun when you're mine, all mine, and that line in the next one.
That makes it Lennon.
There you go. Don't you run and hide, just come on, come on. So there's the repetition within the line that actually kind of makes you look and go, well, I can see that someone would look at that and think, well, he's done the same thing in that verse in terms of that internal repetition, and then he's done it again in the second verse. Could just be coincidence, but looking at it, you think, well, all right, yeah, that works.
Well, and those come ons as well. Like you were saying, you could imagine this live, but I mean, really, you can. I mean, that would be like you can imagine that going over really well at the Hollywood
Yeah.
Bowl or Shea Stadium or whatever. You know, yeah, it's got that come on, yeah, and then you get the kind of slides down, and it's got the energy, and you can see the crowd, you know, kind of going wild. It's got the big yeah before the instrumental break and all that stuff. It does have that kind of live energy, and yet, like you said, I'm sure they recorded this, put it away, never thought of it again. But it does have that, and yeah, the it's not the come ons aren't really proper call and response, but it's kind of fulfilling a similar function, and it works well. I mean, it juices the song, it gives it some energy, and if it's not sophisticated, and it's not sophisticated, I mean, that's fine. I mean, it's fine for what it is. It works well. I mean, when you were mentioning before about you know, you wouldn't want sort of technical knowledge of the song to get in the way of your appreciation or your enjoyment of it. I don't personally find that it does. If anything, it enhances my enjoyment of it. But like those little bursts of energy like that on the come-ons,
Yeah.
like they're captivating and sort of you know, knowing how it was constructed doesn't take away from the sort of drive or the energy of those moments, and it's those little moments in this song that do make it stand out a bit.
Yeah, and I'll add to that with I think the harmony on the "I'm so sad and lonely" line, which you get maybe 4 or 5 times in the song, I think really works. You know, it's something a little bit different on their harmonies, and the fact that it's kind of targeted to one tiny section, I just think kind of really helps to make it stand out. Just like on the fade out as well, with, you know, "Baby Take a Chance with Me," and then I think it's McCartney singing the "Oh Yeah," probably the only time you can really hear McCartney's voice on it. It's just so effective.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's got that little extra thing, and like you said, it's at the fade at that point. I mean, that could have turned up at any point during the song, but it doesn't. But it's just, it gives it that little extra push as you're leaving the song behind. It leaves you with something memorable. I must be honest, when we were, like I said before, I didn't remember this song, but once I started listening to it in preparation for this episode, it really got stuck in my head. It's a bit of an earworm. And I was not expecting this to be an earworm, I have to be honest. But I just like, this is incredibly lame, but I was doing the washing up yesterday and I was kind of humming it under my breath. And it was like, oh my God, it's that song. It's stuck in my damn head again. But again, that's, you know, that's a skill. It's not a complicated song, but it's still kind of, it got kind of stuck in there. I couldn't get it out, and that says something as well, I think.
I think, yeah, it's also one of those songs though that I think passes the ironic cover test, in the sense that I can't imagine it being slowed down with just a little tinkly piano and set for a Lloyd's Bank advert. Nor can I imagine the Mike Flowers Pops having a go at it in the mid-90s as well, because I think it's one of those that just kind of works as a rocker. If you were to sort of turn it any other way, it would just fall apart. It needs to be sung at that kind of tempo. And I suppose then the other thing that, you know, intrigues me about this is the thought that this was originally written for Ringo to sing, and I can't imagine him singing this at all.
No, this isn't a song that really stands out as a Ringo song. I wouldn't have thought that either.
No, but you know, so one of the things that apparently Paul said about it was, or about Ringo, he didn't have a large vocal range. So, you know, he could really sing them with some gusto if they were nice and simple, but it had to be something he could get behind. If, you know, if he couldn't picture himself singing it, then, you know, he wouldn't sing it. And apparently he passed on this. He just couldn't get it at all. And yeah, it's just not quite, it just doesn't feel like a Ringo song. It doesn't feel like it has that sort of same joie de vivre as say Boys, for example. You know, or indeed, I suppose, I Want to Be Your Man, which we're going to have to talk about at some point, which is a little bit more, let's say, optimistic, perhaps, than this. This is distinctly Lennon in some ways, as you were noting when sort of mentioned the, you know, picking specific parts out of the lyrics as well, and that perhaps Lennon's voice then doesn't transcribe quite so well in other people as McCartney's upbeat G happy, isn't everything lovely sort of take.
Well, and also McCartney's just very good at writing songs for other people, whereas Lennon is very good at writing songs for Lennon. I don't really mean that as a criticism, you know. But that's you know, like, that's one of McCartney's skills, is that he has this ability to write in any style that he wants. But that doesn't just mean in terms of sort of genre pastiche. He can also find a way of writing for a specific artist, and if that particular artist happens to be Ringo, then okay, well, you know, fair enough. He's able to write songs which caters to, you know, the requirements that a Ringo song would have, whereas Lennon just kind of writes what Lennon writes, and if you can sing it, that's fine, and if you can't, you can't. And so yeah, I like this lyric feels very Lennon-esque to me, and I can imagine that that's just not something that would transcribe itself particularly well to Ringo.
Again, if you've listened to enough of these, you'll know that I'm not the biggest fan of Lennon's voice. But actually, this is a really good performance. And I think it's a really good performance because he can buy into the idea of what he's singing. And I'm not too worried about the little child and the baby stuff. You know, it's just an expression. You know, there's nothing behind that. But he manages to give it some meaning, which I think is something that Ringo wouldn't have been able to do.
He sounds like he means it, which is not something which is always the case with Lennon. But he just sounds like he's got a bit of energy to him. He wants to give a good performance on this song for whatever reason. Again, that's not necessarily true of every song we'll be covering on this album. But he's got a bit of life to him in this one. There's a bit of sparkle here. I think again that energy also is one of the things that makes it feel like it would be a good live number, is that Lennon is doing his kind of live vocal performance. He's not doing a studio voice, if you know what I mean. He's singing this like he was on stage. He's not being careful about it. He's not being crafted about it. When we get up to talk about the next song on the album, all we will talk about is studio voice and crafting, even though it's McCartney, not Lennon. But for this song, yeah, he's giving it his kind of proper, full-throated sort of live performance, and that again, it gives it the song that extra thing it needs.
Yeah, and there's a quote from McCartney, which seems to contradict that, but I think it sort of fits in what we were saying a moment ago, where he was saying that in terms of writing, he was saying certain songs were inspirational and you just followed that. Certain other songs were, right, come on, 2 hours, song for Ringo for the album. Well, if this was, quote-unquote, the song for Ringo for the album, the fact that Lennon put in the performance he does, it is all the more impressive.
Yeah, well, it's the spontaneity of it. You know, I think that's the thing you can hear. It's rough around the edges, but that's because it's being done pretty spontaneously. You know, what was it, like a dozen takes of this song, and then that's it, done and dusted. That's not a lot of time. There's not a lot of time between its writing and its recording either. And that spontaneity is what really helps to give it the energy that it has. And if this was just a quick knockoff, then it's a beneficiary to the fact that they didn't spend a long time pondering on it. That's what's making it work.
And that McCartney quote, of course, then sort of takes us back to previous discussions about the nature of albums at the time, and actually the idea that what is a successful album is starting to change with the Beatles, and that when we get on to talk about the album as a whole and the charts, you'll start to see more bands in there as opposed to, you know, kind of like the old-fashioned singers and the musicals. But it's still that sense of, right, album, formula, filler, let's get it done. Let's build up some more songs in there really quickly just to get it done. And there wasn't perhaps that sense of craft about everything, but there was that sense of business, and this is business. And it is then also interesting that, of course, what Lennon and McCartney are trying to do at this time, with encouragement from Epstein, is to write songs that other people can then sing. You know, you've got the whole sort of, Tin Pan Alley and Brill Building history of people churning out songs successfully for other people to sing. And of course, you know, we've seen on the first album that they've used songs by, you know, the likes of Carole King. You know, so we know that they're aware of that as it exists, but then trying to become both the successful recording artist and also the successful songwriting duo for other people is a really good way of trying to hedge your bets, really, isn't it? So, well, if this stops, and remember they thought it would stop, then they've got this other thing that they can go on and they can do as well.
Absolutely, and that's really, I think, the key point. What you've mentioned there is that it would stop. There was literally no history of performers who had careers which went on for more than a few years. Even Elvis isn't into double figures at this point. You know, you're talking about a 6 or 7 year career. So you know, there's no expectation that this is something which will last. And there are interviews with McCartney in 63, 64, where he says, yeah, of course this isn't going to last forever. We'll end up doing the Tin Pan Alley thing. And, you know, that's fine. That was your logical career progression within music. You got as much out of the kind of the teeny bopper market as you could, whether that was money or exposure or whatever. And then you went on and you became, you know, a traditional songwriter. And whether that was I mean, McCartney, obviously you would think, oh, well, a balladeer. He would write, you know, this be the sort of person that had the band only lasted a couple of years. He would probably go on and write songs for Frank Sinatra or for, you know, Dean Martin, and even their careers are not that long in the tooth at this point. That's the other thing. When was In the Wee Small Hours 56 or something like that, in the wee small hours of the morning? So you're not talking about a big range of time here. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, and you know, the ability to just turn up, knock out a song, bugger off again, that was a you know, a key component to being able to turn out. To be able to turn this into that kind of career. It wasn't something which was necessarily built to last. It was just meant to generate material.
And of course, we'll go on and we will talk, as I've already said, I Want to Be Your Man will come up in that category in later weeks. But of course, Brian Epstein, being the, you know, who knew, genius that he was, of course, was also trying to get the Beatles to write songs for his other artists. And I suppose, actually, I think George Martin produced Cilla Black, didn't he, as well? So there's that overlap there. It's almost like this self-serving, you know, little cabal where they're trying to get their own friends, their own artists into the charts and have success. And of course, that's going to be good for George Martin. It's going to be good for Brian Epstein. It's going to be good for them because they've got the songwriting credit as well, and good for Dick James because of the publishing deal. You know, there's lots of vested interests out there, and I know that you know, George Martin didn't put as much time into recording Cilla Black as he did into the Beatles. But then, why would you when it's all about the voice there, whereas it's all about, you know, the whole package with the Beatles? And it's quite interesting to think as well, you know, you sort of look down some of the songs that they wrote for other people, and I would imagine that most of them, particularly in that 63, 64 period, most of them have just kind of died completely. And I can't imagine really, I can't picture many of these as well. I mean, From a Window, Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas? No.
Nope.
Maybe Step Inside Love, Cilla Black. I think.
I know Step Inside Love. Yeah.
Peter and Gordon.
I think there's a demo of McCartney recording Step Inside Love. I think that's a little bit later, isn't it? It's not about 65 or something.
It is 68.
A bit later, yeah. Maybe it's one of the White Album offcuts or something. But yeah, I've heard McCartney sing that song as well as the Cilla Black version.
It's just kind of odd, you know. I'm in Love, 1963, The Foremost.
Nope, nothing.
Like Dreamers Do, the Applejacks, which the...
I have heard of them, but the only reason I've heard of them is because of the Mark Lucian book. That's the only reason I've heard of the Applejacks.
Well, they were the first brumbeat group to reach the top 10 of the UK singles chart and were unusual for having a female bass guitarist.
Yes, and if you've never heard the term brumbeat before, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one letter.
Not a thing.
But yeah, I don't know whether or not that was a big hit. Beatles version, I'd say, okay, here's a bit of a giveaway. When it comes to the Beatles version, it was on the Decca tapes. So of course it will have Pete Best on.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
but a lot of it also becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy after a certain period of time as well, because if you see the name Lennon McCartney as songwriters on a track which is not recorded by them, people are going to go out and buy it, because by this stage, well, yeah, pretty much even by this stage, they're certainly the biggest band in the UK, and they're, you know, very, very close to being the biggest band in the world. You know, it won't take more than another 12 months for that to be the case. So yeah, if people see that name on the record label, they're going to go out and buy it, whether it's necessarily by an artist that they would purchase or not.
But then after 63, well, I suppose apart from the Cilla Black one, were there really that many that were particularly successful? I mean, you know, there's the Badfinger one, you know, Come and Get It. And I only know the chorus to that. I have no idea what the verse sounds like. You know, I don't know.
Well, Mary Hopkin, those were the days. I mean, I know she was also signed to Apple, but that was a huge, huge hit.
Did McCartney write that?
Yeah, McCartney wrote that.
Oh, okay. There you go. Learned something new today. He said, desperately trying to search for...
I'll edit right this bit, don't worry.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I don't think he did. Sorry, that sounded a bit too...
I'll definitely edit right that. I'm pretty sure he did. Those were the days. I'm sure McCartney wrote that for Mary Hopkin.
Two people searching the internet at the same time.
Oh shit! This could go terribly wrong. Yeah.
See, and certainly it was produced by him.
Ah, damn it!
There you go. Close but no banana. Boris Formin and Gene Raskin.
Okay. Fair enough. I hold my hands up and admit my error.
So, song credited to Gene Raskin, who put a new English lyric to the Russian romance song composed by Boris Formin, 1900 to 1948, etc., etc. Anyway, it deals with reminiscence upon youth and romantic idealism. It also deals with tavern activities, which include drinking, singing, and dancing. Tavern activities. There's a subgenre of which I was not previously aware. There you go. Anyway, I mean, it's a little bit like what was that other one that McCartney did have a few very successful singles that he produced. Did he not produce the Urban Spaceman?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, for Bonzo Dog Judo Band. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few bits like that he got involved in without necessarily doing the writing. But yeah. Anyway, rabbit holes. We could go down rabbit holes. But the songs of Lennon and McCartney. And it's worth pointing out, dear listener, because I think you will be interested in this, that the appallingly named and very inaccurate named songfacts.com has a section called Songs Written by Lennon and or McCartney for Other Artists. You know, and I love the thought of Lennon and McCartney sitting down and churning out all day for Kanye West. Maybe champagne poetry for Drake, but there you go. And you know, certainly Veronica.
It's a delightful image.
Veronica was not written for Elvis Costello; it was written
no, it definitely was
Elvis Costello. But there you go. Have you heard of "The Light Comes From Within" by a young up and coming artist called Linda McCartney?
I believe Linda McCartney is a popular beat combo. I can't say that it's one that I'm particularly aware of.
Album Wild Prairie in 1998.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, she died in 88, and later that year, her widower, the multi-talented Paul McCartney, released a posthumous album, Wild Prairie. The Light Comes From Within is the 6th track and the last song she ever recorded. There you go.
I haven't listened to that album, and so I haven't got anything to say about it. Although that didn't stop us from talking about Across the Universe when neither of us had seen that either. But no, I can't say that's one that I've heard.
No, I'm sure it's perfectly fine. And the best way of making sure that is a true statement is by not listening to it.
That certainly seems like good advice. Good advice, all right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's sort of interesting the way in which they were writing, almost, you know, admitting they're writing in a formulaic fashion. And you know what? There's not necessarily anything wrong with that. It's a sign of maturity. It's also a sign that, of course, that these are quite savvy young men who are turned on to the fact that this is a job. It's something they love doing, but it's a job.
Yeah, it was their career, and a song like Little Child is turning up on a Tuesday morning and just, you know, working your way through your emails. That's pretty much what it is.
And that sounds like a summary.
Well, if that's going to be a summary, then I guess that means we should probably move towards giving this song some kind of ranking. So, what's your score for this one then?
Well, I've always got to sort of go back and have a look at what I've given things before, and I've got things like Ask Me Why and Baby It's You as 6s. There's a Place, Do You Want to Know a Secret, and Chains as a 5. It sort of fits into both those camps, but neither particularly comfortably. And I've already set myself the rather dogmatic approach of not doing 0.5s, or indeed for that matter 0.75s or 0.25s. So I'm going to have to go with a whole number. And I think on the whole I like it enough to give it a 6. Oh, I made that sound like a sporting event.
Okay, that's fair. I think we might be in agreement this week. I think I'm going to give it a 6 as well. I definitely can't give it any more than a 6. I can't give it a decimal point. It's not, you know, it is a work song. It doesn't deserve more than that. But it's still, you know, what else have I given a 6 to? It Won't Be Long, Thank You Girl, Taste of Honey, And I Go to Him. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm giving it 6.
Okay. Rare agreement, I feel.
Yes. It's not common, but I think in this particular case we are as one. And on that note, I think we can probably leave things there on that bombshell agreement. So, you can contact us if you so wish by email. We are BeatlesStuffology@gmail.com. We're on Twitter @Beatles_ology. And you can find more of my writing about TV, movies, music, and a whole bunch of other stuff at www.jgmacquarie.scot. Please like, rate, and review us on whatever podcast you're using so that more people can find the show. Next week, we leave behind the world of work songs and we come to one of the absolute classics of the early years. So we are going to be covering Till There Was You. But will we actually decide that it deserves the reputation that it has? Well, there's only one way to find out. You're just going to have to tune in. So, until then, keep listening.